So this is the 2015 Leaving Cert Ordinary Level Paper 1 and we're looking at question number 8. The daily profit of an oil trader is given by the profit function P is equal to 96x minus 0.03x squared, where P is the daily profit in euro and x is the number of barrels of oil traded in a day. Okay, so it's important to be clear with a question like this on what means what. So what you could do is say P, highlight P down here and here, and P is the daily profit in euro. Okay. What you might do next then is think about X. X is the number of barrels of oil traded in a day, and there's X there. And also you have X here and here. So, part A says complete the table below. So, we've to complete the daily profit when the number of barrels X changes to these values. So, when the number of barrels traded in a day is 500, we have a daily profit of this much. So, you're just putting these X values in here to this function. You're substituting them in for X and you're working out what P is. So you can use the function tool on your calculator, or you can just do this individually. So in other words, for this box here, we're just going to put the value 1000 up in here. So on your calculator, what you're doing is P is equal to 96 by 1000 minus 0.03 by 1000 squared. So you can see there what I've done is I'm just taking this 1000 value and putting it in there in the place of the X, and that's going to give me the P value that I want to put in here. Okay. So when I do that and I put all of this here into my calculator, the value I get is 66,000. So that gives me 66,000. Okay, a value of P being equal to 66,000. So just to make sure we fully get this, that's our P value, and there's our P value there, 66,000. Okay, so you can just repeat this process now for the different X values along the way. And when you do that, you get 76,500 for here. You change the X to 1500. 72,000 when you change X to 2000. And 52,500 when you change X to 2,500 barrels. So there's the table filled in, and that's just the example of how you do one of them. Okay, part B says draw the graph of the trader's profit function on the axes below, where for X between 500 and 2,500. So here's 500 and 2,500. So just in this window here, we're going to plot these values. So you're going to plot the values from the table, because this graph here has the profit up the side, the P value, and the number of barrels X across the horizontal axis. So our first point is 500, 40,500. So if we go back here, we go over to 500 and up to 40,500. Well, 40,500 will be, that's 4,200, 42,500. So 40,500 would be somewhere here. Our next value then, at 1,000 barrels a day, it's a profit of 66,000. So 1,000 barrels a day gives us a profit of 66,000, which would be somewhere in the region of here. 1,500 barrels gives us 76,500. 1,500 barrels gives us 76,000. And 500, so that's 70 77,500, 76,500, somewhere around here. Uh, 2,000 barrels gives us 72,000. 2,000 barrels gives us 72,000, so that's 72,500, so a little bit below that. Over there. And finally, 2,500 barrels gives us 52,500. So 2,500 barrels gives us 52,500, which is exactly there. Okay, so we've got our points, and now all we need to do is join them up with a smooth curve. So as smooth as you possibly can, you would join these points up. You can be a bit smoother than I can on this. So that's not too smooth there up around here, but you can do it as smooth as possible. So that's going to be your curve. And that's the end of part B. Part C says use your graph to estimate 1. The daily profit when 1750 barrels are traded. So let's go back. When 1750 barrels are traded, that's from here. We draw a line straight up from here till we hit the curve. And then we go across from there. That's going to be our estimate. So across to here. So we're looking at a value of about 77,500, roughly. Now your value may be different to mine, your graph might be more accurate than mine, but somewhere in that region. And it's whatever is correct according to your graph. Okay. Part 2, the number of barrels traded when the daily profit is 60,000 euro. So let's go back here. When the daily profit is 60,000 euro. There's our daily profit, 60,000 euro. And if we go across from here, where does it hit the curve? Well, it actually hits in two places, there and there. So one of the values will be here, and the other value will be, their x value will be here. So the two answers we're looking for then will be, this is about 500, 750. So somewhere in the region of 750. Somewhere in the region of 850 here. 850 barrels, and over here we have a value of something like 2,250, 2,300. So 850 and 2,300. 850 barrels or 2,300. And again, it depends on your graph exactly what these three values will be, but so long as it's correct according to your graph, you'll get the marks. Okay, moving on. Part D says use calculus to find the number of barrels of oil traded that will earn the maximum daily profit. So obviously we could read from the graph the maximum daily profit, but we're told to use calculus. So the calculus that we studied for the ordinary level course would be differentiation. So how do we find the max on a curve using differentiation? Well, let's just write the function out again. Well, the function p was equal to 96x minus 0.03 x squared. So we want to find where that's a max. Well, if we differentiate p with respect to x, in other words, if we find dp dx, and then we let that equal to 0, that's where the max will be. So dp dx is equal to, the derivative of 96x is just 96. And the derivative of minus 0.03x squared, we bring the power down to the front and multiply this by the power. So minus 0.03 by 2 is minus 0.06. And then x to the power of, reduce this power by 1, x to the power of 1, so just x. So that's dp dx. And then we're going to let that be equal to 0. So we get 96 minus 0.06x. Let that be equal to 0. So what we can do now is bring this over to the other side, and it's going to become positive 0.06x. So we have the 0.06x is equal to 96. So x is 96 divided by 0.06. And that gives us a value of 1600. So x is equal to 1600. That's the number of barrels of oil traded that will earn the maximum daily profit, 1600. Part D2 says find this maximum profit. So if we're trying to find the maximum profit, well, we know the maximum profit is when 1600 barrels are sold. So let's just put that into the profit function. The profit function was 96x minus 0.03x squared. So that's going to be equal to 96 by the 1600 barrels minus 0.03 by the 1600 barrels squared. And that gives us a max profit of 76,800 euro in total. Okay, and finally, part E. The trader will not make a profit if he trades more than K barrels of oil in a day. Calculate the value of K. Well, if the trader will not make a profit, that means his profit will be 0. So we're trying to find out how many barrels a day will give a profit of 0. So we let the profit function, which is P equals 96x minus 0.03x squared. We're going to let that be equal to 0. So 96x minus 0.03x squared. When that's 0, we want to know what the number of barrels is, and x represents the number of barrels. So we're just going to solve this equation. Now there's a few ways you could do this. It's a quadratic equation, because the highest power of x is the square. So you could use the quadratic formula. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to rewrite this here as minus 0.03x squared plus 96x equals 0. So we can see here then that in this quadratic equation, my a value is minus 0.03. My b value is 96. And there is no constant term, so my c value is 0. So I'm just going to plug these values into my quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, remember, is in your tables book, and it's minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that's all going to be over 2a. So when we put these values in, we get minus 96 plus or minus the square root of 96 squared minus 4 times a, which is minus 0.03, times c, which is 0. Square root signs over all of that. And that's all over twice a, so all over 2 by minus 0.03. So putting all this into the calculator then, we get one of our answers is 0 when we do it with the plus sign. So when we do it with the plus sign, we get an answer of 0. And when we do it with the minus sign, we get an answer of 3,200. So that's our answer when we use the minus sign. So there's our two answers. So obviously we know if he sells no barrels, he makes no profit. But the number of barrels that if he sells more than, it will give us a make no profit would be 3,200. So the answer there is 3,200, and that's the end of the question.